guys, welcome back to Bisrat for Africa. Joined here today by my brother Abimelech. He is based in Ethiopia. The two of us are attending training in Kenya, and we're learning about church planting. Now, you remember when we started our show, we named our channel Bisrat for Africa, and this is a name that comes from the Ethiopian language of Amharic. And so we've always also spoken about Ethiopia. It's the only nation in Africa that's never been colonized. And so they have a very rich Christian heritage that comes from there. But the question we're asking today is, when we look at Ethiopian Christianity, particularly the Ethiopian Orthodox Church of Tewahedo, do we see the same thing that is practiced in the church, the same as what we see in the Bible? And so this is a question that our brother is going to help us to understand. He is someone who was raised in the church. He's someone who also was actually a leader in the church. And so he's so better positioned to help us to understand this church. And so before we get into that, we're just going to ask him to introduce himself, tell us what he does in Ethiopia, tell us, in terms of ministry, where he's at, and then we're going to move from there. Welcome, brother.
Thank you very much.
So can you just share a little bit, who is Abimelech, and what do you do in terms of work and your career and the things that you're involved in Ethiopia?
Okay, thank you very much for the chance. Sure. Thank you for naming the channel dedicated for Bisrat.
Absolutely.
Which has really surprised me.
Yeah.
So to begin with, my name is Abimelech Tesfaye. I'm from Ethiopia. I'm a pharmacist by profession, and also I do some businesses. And then now I'm here in Nairobi for training for church planting training, which my future plan is just to plant a church in Ethiopia, in the evangelical circle, and serve.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing that. So we want to understand your journey, from when you were young, the type of church that you grew up in, and maybe what led you to also embrace, biblical Christianity, to embrace Jesus. What were the things that were involved in leading you to that place?
Okay, again, thank you for the question. I was born and raised in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. My area, I'm just from the northern part of the Ethiopia, whereby I can say that this is the source and many of the religious practice of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is there. So in a city called Kombolcha, or Wollo. So I have been raised there. I have spent most of my years in the childhood in a Sunday school in the St. Gabriel Kombolcha Hamerano church. So I've got my most of my years there, and also in that same Sunday school I began to teach, to participate in worship, in teaching the word, and extra, and then I joined to the university, and then got back to Adi. So my journey is like a kind of when I become more reading of, when I do more of the reading of the Bible, I become so much surprised that especially the epistles of Paul, Paul doesn't say nothing about like Saint Mary or Angel Gabriel or Angel Michael or the saints that we celebrate and worship in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. So that really raised a question in my life, that for the things that kept me busy in the church, for the things that control my mind, for the things that I consider them as like religious or as a way of showing love for God, Paul says, or the Bible in general says nothing about it. So that raised an issue in my heart, that am I in the right place? Because in my childhood year in the high school, most of in my summer times I spent it in the monasteries, because doing fasting, prayer, some traditional routines or rituals. So that really raised an issue in me, like, am I in the right track because of the heart that I have for the Lord, for the heart that I have for God? So that raised so that made me to look more into the Bible.
Into the Bible.
So the more I look in the Bible, then the more I became far away from the churches. The more the things that are done ritually or routinely in the Orthodox Church doesn't give that much sense to me, because most of them I can say that I personally found them that they are not biblical.
Understand.
So that paved the way for me to like rethink again, am I in the right track?
Absolutely.
So that this question just paved the way for me. I began to question the church elders, the priestess, but the answers that you get sometimes is like not good. So at the end of the day, I became my own decision, because I've married in that church, I've ministered in that church, I love that church too much. I tried my best to give in that church as well, but there comes, at a point, a time that whether choosing this road or that road becomes an important part for me. And then for me, Jesus will hold my heart. When I really understand Jesus, when I really get the gospel, then the other stuffs, the other things are not becoming really relevant to me, and then I make a decision to join the evangelical society.
Wow, that's wonderful, man. So this is encouraging for all of us, that God is really at work in our continent, and maybe for those of you who are in South Africa who are not exposed to the rest of the continent, this is why we make these videos, so you can see what God is doing in our continent. So what we want to also understand from you, brother, is the differences between what we would believe as maybe Christians who are Bible believing and the Ethiopian Church of Tewahedo. So what would be the just like 2 or 3 things that you can say these things are different, and maybe just get a little bit into explaining it, maybe for someone who's not familiar with the church.
Thank you very much. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, traditionally or historically, as some in the church speaks about, you can't trace it back to the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts, okay? But the thing is it biblical? Is it evangelical? Are they Christ-centered? Are they gospel-centered? That's the question.
Yeah.
Because for me, for example, I've been raised there. I know the church very well. I think time in between, because the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, I think, as far as I know, it was in the 4th century, it was the state religion of the Ethiopian church, the feudal system generally, until very recently, maybe in the last 100 years. So it has stayed as a state religion as well. So most of the Ethiopians are passed through this religious system. But mainly, is it biblical? So I can tell you one. The first one might be, there is a great worship, like I can say, a deep and great worship for Saint Mary, which is not biblical. So the way they really raise praise and worship Saint Mary really question. Sometimes they will tell you even that without Saint Mary there is no redemption, which really doesn't make sense. That goes against the Bible. Yes, the blood of Christ is the one that redeems us, not anyone else. Had Saint Mary or other saints are enough for redemption, then why God in the flesh? Why God in the flesh?
Absolutely.
So, and then also the worship of angels, the worship of Ethiopian Orthodox saints. Okay, there is this monthly or sometimes yearly celebrations and worship. So they bow down for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. At the same time, they bow down for Saint Mary. They bow down for these saints. They bow down for the angels. So this is not biblical in one or the other way.
Absolutely.
So that is the thing that really makes me to just leave them and then join them. This is one of, I think, one or 3 reasons.
Thank you so much, man. That's very helpful. And maybe for those of you who might not sort of understand the Ethiopian church, of course, we know church tradition tells us that the Ethiopian eunuch that was converted in the book of Acts was the person that established Christianity there. But we also know from historical records that King Azana was the one that established the national sort of state religion in Ethiopia. And it was actually one of the first nations in the whole world to make Christianity a state religion. This is before the Roman Empire. This is before many of the European empires. And so we're quite grateful for the history of the Ethiopian church to help us to understand that Christianity doesn't come from Europe. It's not a white man's religion. But however, our authority is the Bible, and we're not just trying to follow African history or Africanism, but really what we're trying to do is to follow the Bible. So talking about the Bible, brother, a lot of people raise the question of the fact that we have 66 books, and I think the Ethiopian church would have about 81. So that's way more than the Roman Catholic Church. That's way more than our Protestant Bible. So maybe a question to you would be, what would be a response on your side to someone who says, well, we've got 66, they have 81. Why should we have 66 and not 81?
I will be happy to take you through the why they have the
Sure.
81 first.
Sure.
The Ethiopian Orthodox Church Bible is translated directly from the Septuagint.
Sure.
So in the translation of the Septuagint, it was translated like the apocryphal books were also translated into Greek. Okay, so the apocryphal, which is the 15 apocryphal books, they have turned it into the local language that time was Giz. So then taken as canonical books. That's the difference. So we know, I'm sure that the rest of the world know these 15 apocryphal books, whereby the Orthodox Church then accepts it as it is canonical. So coming to its contents, I always ask
sorry,
this.
brother, before we go, when you say apocryphal, some people are just lay people, some people haven't maybe done theology. So maybe just to explain these 15 books, what are some of these books and what is really wrong with these books that we mustn't accept them?
So from the books of the Old Testament, the books ends in the Malachi. So from that time to the coming of Christ, it is believed as a time of darkness, or there was no prophecy, or there was no Holy Spirit. So this is just simply speaking that these books are written within this time frame.
Okay.
So by the way, when we study theology, you can use it for history, but even the Israelites, the Jews, they don't accept it as a canonical.
Absolutely.
So even the Jews reject them. They might use them for a reference or something like that, but they are not canonical.
Absolutely.
So that is the Spirit of God is not in them. So the Jews even, they don't accept it. So
absolutely.
the book of Maccabees, the book of Enoch, so are some of the books in them. So
Absolutely.
and then it's not about actually adding them or minusing them basically, or reducing them, but is there any new content, for example? So we can take some of the books which really encourage the worship of saints, the worship of angels, the worship of like Saint Mary, especially the angels. So I don't think these books, some not that much, but some of its content, especially in the book of Enoch, it might have a conflict with the main the history of the Bible, which is worshiping God alone, worshiping Yahweh alone. So this is the majority. But I don't believe that, or I don't think that there is something really significant which can make a doctrinal difference in these 15 books. So, but traditionally, because the church has stayed more, it has its own history, then they have these 81 books.
Wow, this is very well explained. And I know the book of Enoch especially is the only book, or the Ethiopian Church is the only church really that embraces this book. And we know that even the ancient texts of the book of Enoch are preserved in Giz. So sometimes I see this as national pride for them, that it's in our language, it's our book, and so we must keep it. But it's not always true that this is historically how the church has seen it. It's not historically how even the Jewish community, like you're saying, has accepted it. So, brother, maybe in closing, it's just helpful for some believers out there who might encounter people from the Ethiopian Church of Tewahedo, or even people who would raise and say, our Christianity is different from the oldest form of Christianity in Africa. And so why do we have this one, which is more similar to European? Are we not colonized, that we're not using or embracing? Is this not the African version of Christianity that goes way back to the Ethiopian eunuch, that is ancient? All of us were colonized, but Ethiopia wasn't. So surely we must use the Christianity that hasn't been influenced by colonialism. What would be your response to people who say that?
By the way, I'm so much proud that my country has this huge history of Christianity.
Absolutely.
If you come to Ethiopia, I can take you so much places that really you can see. By the way, even in the behavior of the people, you can trace back some Christian elements that these people has really a value on Christianity. But when you came to Christ, really understanding the gospel, this is not about history. This is not about this or that. This is not about Europe, America, or Africa, or Ethiopia.
Absolutely.
This is not the issue of colonization. This is about redemption.
Absolutely.
So the one and only way of redemption is Christ and Christ himself only. So Can you add on that? Do you think that's it? I don't get
that's
like
clear.
This is, we all believe that Adam has sinned, and then we were his children.
Absolutely.
We are his descendants. Then who is going to make you free? Who is going to redeem you? You being uncolonized, are you going to be redeemed from that? You're not. You being white or Western, are you going to be free from the Adam sin? No. The only way to be free is Christ himself. So
Absolutely.
the way we understand the gospel is very important. And then the church history, one thing that tells you that churches, the more they age, they become institutions. That's the problem in Ethiopian Orthodox Church, by the way. In institutionalism.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can be proud of it, I can be proud of it, but when if it's about dealing with sin alone,
absolutely,
then you can deal with sin alone only with the blood of Christ and with the blood of Christ only. So it's not about becoming proud. I am Ethiopian, but I believe I'm very much happy about my nation. But when it comes to the gospel, no one is going to redeem me but Christ alone. And then I really advise the church leaders to adopt the gospel. Because you know, it's very difficult in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church to see the gospel, because there are a lot of dust around it. There are a lot of traditions, cultures around it.
Absolutely.
So people are getting used to their cultures and then forget the gospel. So they worship a lot, they give a lot for Saint Mary, but forgetting Christ.
Absolutely.
They give a lot for Saint Michael, they are forgetting Christ. But the one who will redeem you is only Christ and Christ only. So this is the assumption of the Bible. This is the teachings of the Bible. And then that's why I many times say that Ethiopian Orthodox Church is not evangelical, is not gospel centered. Okay, so you can value more of the tradition, you can value more of your culture, you can have heritage. I'm happy for that. I'm happy when I read the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts 8. It really feels me good. But when it comes to even that eunuch, he's not going to be a solution for me.
Absolutely.
He's not going to redeem me. If he redeems, it's his own way. But for me, it's Christ. Absolutely. You are from South Africa. Whether you are colonized or not, it doesn't make a difference.
Absolutely.
The one who can redeem you is one, then that's Christ.
Amen.
If you forget Christ, if you really remove Christ from all this redemption work, redemption history, and then concentrate on other stuff, then you might think that you are saved, but you are not saved.
Amen.
You are not saved. So that's all about it.
Thank you so much, brother. That was very clear for me. It's not about what people have done. It's not about what Mary can do for you. It's not about what angels can do for you. It's really about what Jesus Christ, what God comes to offer us as people in the world. We cannot save ourselves. Colonialism cannot save us. Whiteness can't save us. Blackness can't save us. Ethiopianism can't save us. It is really Jesus Christ that can save us, and he's the only one really that died for us and really has the power and the righteousness to save us. This is Bisrat for Africa. Thank you so much, my brother, for joining us and sharing your testimony with us. And if you've liked this video, I want to encourage you guys to like, to subscribe, and to share. And we'll see you guys on the next video.